evil brew or the elixir of life, whichever, the wine programme now tells us how to make it.
Do you consider alchemy part of your job?
I'm no magician. I'm a winemaker. Shh.
The vine's not just any old plant. It's always been imbued with all sorts of religious symbolism, tradition, even magic. Noah gave vineyard planting top priority after all. And archaeologists reckon there were men making wine as early as 10,000 years BC. Throughout history, wine drinking has been regarded as much more than mere boozing. Almost a sacrament with restorative properties to boot. Ever since Paul counselled Timothy to use a little wine for thy stomach's sake, wine has been sanctioned as a medicine. Churches in wine-growing regions everywhere celebrate the vine. Until recently, the basics of vine cultivation and winemaking had changed remarkably little from the simple techniques of the ancients. Even today, probably the majority of producers rely wholly on tradition. Here they're cleaning casks. Bodegas Muga in Rioja is fanatical about the old methods. The traditionalist owner is Isaac Muga. Now, why do you still use eggs here?
Bueno, nosotros clarificamos con clara de huevo.
We clarify our wine with egg white because it's a natural product and we want to keep a tradition. The purpose of the egg white is to clean the wine of its impurities, of the rubbish in it. So we add beaten egg white to the wine. There is a reaction with the alcohol, with the tannin, and with the coloring agent the wine contains. It coagulates with the albumin and forms a sort of fine membrane, which sinks slowly, dragging with it all the impurities in the wine. That takes about a month. Then the wine is completely clean and ready for bottling.
What do you do with all the yolks?
What do we do with the yolks? Well, we take them to the patisserie to be made into cakes.
And this is Montesillo, a wine factory, built with money made from Osborne sherry and brandy. They're the ones who put those little black bulls all over Spain. Maria Martinez spoke for her boss, Gonzalo Calzape, about the old and the new.
Well, we are using the new things like a working instrument. For instance, we are using fermentation tanks very, very new, as you can see, and very, very modern. But we also are using our traditional cask. The process for the cask are absolutely mechanized, but not the method, because, you know, the traditional Rioja wines are in cask for quite long periods.
Mechanization has not touched Muga. There may have been a revolution in winemaking methods, but no one's found a modern way of racking, pouring red wine off the dead yeast cells that have fallen to the bottom of the cask.
Buenos días. Buenos días. ¿Qué cositas está? La coleta del 81. Tenemos 3 trasigas y esta que le estoy dando 4. ¿Quiere probar?
It's jolly difficult to taste wine so cold, isn't it? Why is all your equipment in wood?
Bueno, la madera es el material más noble que tiene el vino.
Wood is the finest material for wine because its pores help the wine develop until we are ready to bottle it.
But don't you think that you're just losing a race against time, that eventually stainless steel is going to take over from wood?
Bueno, nosotros no estamos en contra de...
We are not against new production techniques. We want to continue with the traditional thing because we think it is both good and beautiful.
One of the most dramatic changes in the production of Rioja, the Spanish oaky red that has had such export success, is that the producers now believe in giving the wines bottle age. All over the region there are huge caches like this. Wineries all over the world try to store away a few bottles from ancient vintages. They're a sort of delicious reference library of their produce. You keep all your red wine in bottle for at least a year. What exactly is happening to the wine when it's lying there in glass?
Cuando el vino sale de la barrica, ha sufrido...
When the wine comes out of the barrel, it suffers an oxidizing experience. It absorbs too much of the flavor of the oak and it's very hard. And what the bottle does is blend the aroma of the oak and the flavor of the oak with the wine. All those sluggish elements and those hard elements start disappearing and they begin to become velvety.
Wouldn't it be more commercially sensible to let the consumer pay for the maturing, to sell it earlier?
Yes, it's much more sensible commercially to sell wine when it's just being put in the bottle. But it's not customary to do this in Rioja. Only wines which are ready in the bottle are put on sale. That doesn't mean to say that afterwards they don't continue to grow and develop. But you can't put wine on sale until it's mature.
However good their produce is, modern wineries like this one tend to be monuments to precast concrete and stainless steel. This grape-receiving plant in Catalonia is the pride of Miguel Torres Sr.
I think it's unique in Spain, and it is the last one we have been constructed, because it's easier the work with this kind of tanks, because the stems and the skins could be removed more quickly and more easier than in the other tanks. Also, we like to remain in the highest technical level of Europe. And I think a house as ours could remain in the business if, technically speaking, we are in the top of the all as the best established house in Europe.
Would you say your technical methods are as good as those used in France, say?
Yes, and we have with us techniques have been learning in Burgundy, in Bordeaux. My son also last year has spent all the year studying viticulture in the school of Montpellier. We have also 2 technicals from the University of California, of the University of Davis. And so I think we are very well prepared.
And all this expertise is paying off, isn't it? Haven't you had great international acclaim for your wines?
Yes, we are selling to 83 countries all over the world. It means all the countries who drink wines and also one who doesn't drink wine.
The Torres family have achieved international success in the wine world by writing their own rules. Unfettered by a strong winemaking tradition in Penedès, They've imported special grape varieties and techniques to make what they think is the best possible wine for the area. Modern plant may not be picturesque, but it is effective. In Alsace, the sort of wine produced, dry, white and spicy, seems to have been laid down by stone tablets. But the region is famous for the successful way it has adapted to an important social phenomenon in winemaking, the cooperative. Alsace has some of the oldest wine co-ops in Europe. The Egisheim cooperative has won many awards. Its sales director, François Logel, is justly proud.
The origins of the cooperatives is the beginning of the century, 1902 for the cooperative of Egisheim, for example. But the real extension of the cooperatives is related to the 50s, so after the World War, the Second World War. A lot of vineyards have been destroyed, houses been destroyed, and people felt that they had to join, to merge together in order to arrive to bigger capacity to find out new markets.
The start of the cooperative is also due because the wine merchants didn't care very much about the wine growers, I would say. And the wine growers, they thought the wine merchants are becoming a very too much powerful position inside of the Alsace wine production. So they thought, especially when we had big harvest, they didn't take all the grapes of the day production of the villages together. I mean, they left for several days the wine grapes on the village place without to take any care about them, and in hope to push down the prices for the season. And the peoples got very angry seeing that the production, the grapes, got rotten and started fermenting on the village places.
Oh, he has a lot of reasons to come to join the cooperative. First, as being member of the cooperative, he's one of the boss of the cooperative. So he will be part of the assembly, electing the steering committee and electing the president. So he has his word to say. Another reason, the cooperative are paying well the grapes. Egisheim, for example, on the last harvest, paid 30% more than the traditional merchant. And we are one of the only companies who paid the totality of the grapes. So the member of the cooperative, he has a control on the money he gets for his grapes. That means he's one of the boss. And if he doesn't get the money, he can fire the director of the company, for example. If he goes by a merchant, okay, he buys the grapes, he has no contract for 10 years like he has by joining the cooperative. He has no control on the money he gets, and he gets the price the merchant wants to give him. You can see the bottling lines behind me, which is very powerful, having capacity of 10,000 bottles an hour, which is not very usual for normal growers. All that technical arguments are leading to the way that cooperatives have been more and more successful. The foreign partners are looking for safe partners on which they can rely on. That means partners who can supply the same quality.
Oh dear. Well, nothing's infallible.
Of course.
You always have the feelings that when you are opening a bottle, that in this bottle, some of your grapes are inside of these bottles, and it gives you a very proudy, how you say that, proudy feeling of to be a wine grower and to be a member of the cooperative, I think.
I once said that all you needed to make a glass of wine was this. It is, but you can't blame winemakers for doing a certain amount of tinkering with the basic formula in 2,000 years. Perhaps the most common additive is sugar. It's illegal to add sugar to a wine to make it sweet, but it's quite common practice, particularly in Northern Europe, to add a certain amount of sugar to the fermenting grape juice to make the resultant wine stronger. It's a technique that's meant to be very tightly controlled, but you should see the sacks of sugar piled high in supermarkets in the wine-growing regions at vintage time. As for actually making a wine sweeter, you can either stop the fermentation before the sugar's been converted into alcohol, or you can do what the Germans do and add Suss reserve. This is being done increasingly all over the world, even in England, where one farm's using a tunnel technique, not unlike growing tomatoes. The unfermented juice from these sweet, ripened grapes is added to the white wine before bottling. If in cool climates they have to force the sugar levels up, in hot climates like here in South Australia's Barossa Valley, the problem is keeping the acid levels up. Pioneers in this are the Hill Smiths, whose English forebears were brewers. They run their Yalumba winery from this castle, complete with tower clock made in Croydon, dated portal stone, and lab.
This might look like a set from 2001, but really it's a very important part of making wine in Australia today, technology. Of course, we have the tradition, and we still make wine as we have for the last 100 years with traditional barrel manufacture, and particularly in the fortifieds. But in recent years, technology has played a very important part. I suppose the secret to making wine here is to grow the best possible grapes you can, and then use technology to maximise them through the system. All of this is really a great aid to helping us make better wine.
Fine winemaking depends on getting the balance between sweet and sour, or fruit and acid, exactly right. Technology can help you find that balance. Analysing grape juice is a speciality here.
Well, what we're able to do is to look at the grape juice and analyse it for sugar and acidity, and we also taste the wines, and we take that into consideration in when to harvest, because you know, that way you're able to pick the grapes at just the optimum flavour and composition. And it's very important in Australia, where we do have so much heat, that we pick the grapes just at the right time.
The tannic quality given by oak casks is also important to soft, fruity wines. Cooper Harry Marlowe is plainly proud of his ancient craft. I think he may have told this story before.
First reference to the guild of coopering was recorded in 1396 in Richard II's reign, although it is believed the Celts were the first to bring the craft to the islands, who spoke language akin to the Gauls, who were inhabitants of France. Charlemagne, 742 to 814, he forbade the use of skin wine carriers, uterus bags, leathers sewn together. He ordered barrels to be made of good wood hooped with iron. Australian oak has no maturation value whatsoever. The only timber in Australia is mountain ash that did have slight value. Until the latter years, we only used American oak in the imported timbers, but now we're using French oak, which is more porous and has quicker reaction to the wines and better flavours and qualities in the wines that are produced today.
These barrels were brought in from abroad. Despite Harry's efforts, the art of cooperage is dying in Australia. Does he like a glass of wine himself?
Oh, I love wine, particularly the dry red, because I have that privilege of having my name on the bottles that have been produced. But I do like wines, particularly if you're working amongst it and you're making the barrels which the wine is matured in to get this high quality. I think it's a medicine to you, providing you drink it in proportion.
Here's the vintage named after him. As well it might be, after 50 years spent over steam and stave.
Recognise this? It's the Palacio de Mateus, the picture that launched 1,000 new wine drinkers. The story goes that Fernando Guedes, the man who dreamt up Mateus Rosé, the wine that goes with anything, did a deal with the owner. He offered him either a flat fee or a royalty per bottle for using a picture of his palace on the label. He took the flat fee and regretted it ever since.
The actual business of making and bottling Mateus Rosé takes place many miles away in this palace of work. A wine that's famous even in the tropics must be free from flotsam and jetsam. Absolutely stable and consistent. I asked Fernando Guedes, flanked by his son and grandson, how he had his brainwave.
That we had to find the right bottle to bottle that wine. So I was inspired myself on a flagon which the soldiers in Portugal used to use when covered with filter to keep the water cool when they were out in the training or or the war even. So then I had to think about the label. And the label, I thought would be the best thing to show the label, would be the Palace of Matthäus.
Yes, but not only just the presentation, but the wine itself. I think it was important because people were not very much used to drink wine at that time. People were just getting used to table wines. And Matthäus Rosé being such an easy-to-drink wine and so versatile. I mean, you could drink it in many occasions, and I think this was another reason for its success and why he actually became a very well-known brand, not only in UK, but worldwide as well.
Because it's slightly sweet, isn't it? So it's quite easy for a new wine drinker to appreciate.
Well, it's slightly sweet, as you said. It's not dry, not very sweet, and I think it's the right type for as Salvador said, is an easy wine to drink. That's very important to mention that.
Has the taste of it changed over the years? Has it become a bit drier?
No, we from the very beginning we've been trying, and we succeed to keep the same style of wine. That's where comes the technology, and because it's one of the most important factors is to keep the quality.
In Italy, there are plans for a new pop wine. A rival to the mighty sails of Matthäus. The ancient landscape of Montalcino in southern Tuscany has been chosen for the massive operation. It's a region famous with connoisseurs for its chic red, Brunello di Montalcino. The American-owned Villa Banfi is behind it all. Its spanking new vineyard looks like a vast war cemetery. The cellar's like an airport. Talk about space age. I talked to Burton Anderson, the leading writer on Italian wines.
How big is this estate?
It's 2,850 hectares, of which nearly 1,000 are in vines.
And will that make it one of the biggest in Italy?
Oh, yes. Well, possibly the biggest eventually.
Why did they choose to come here in southern Tuscany?
Well, I think mainly because the land was available in what is considered one of the better wine areas of Italy. And also because I suppose they got a good price for it. There was lots of land available. It's a very good wine country, good vine country. And they're working with a variety that needs good climatic conditions, which you have here.
And didn't the earth move quite literally here for Villa Banfi?
Yes, they moved things around quite extensively. The reason was that they needed to prepare the ground for mechanical harvesting, but also because they wanted to give more even exposure to the grapes.
What sort of wine are they mainly producing?
Well, surprisingly enough, even though they're in the Brunello di Montalcino area, they're concentrating mainly on Moscadello di Montalcino, which is a wine that actually has a history here, but their version will be, I'd say, a more modern style, light, fizzy, slightly sweet, a white wine.
A bit like Asti Spumante.
Something like that, yeah.
It was in the New World that we found the 20th century peasant's answer to Banfi's Supertech, the boutique winery of Australia's Hunter Valley. They pride themselves on handmade wines. Such garden vineyards are owned by professional men turned vignerons. Note the varietal signs, the roses, the rustic winery in the trees. Murray Robson, the owner here, was by trade an interior designer.
This is a very exciting time for wine. After centuries of simply following tradition, winemakers have seen a revolution in the vineyard, and particularly the cellar, over the last 20 years or so. Many of us feel instinctively more drawn still to the tiny peasant enterprise rather than the multinational investment in stainless steel. We're wrong in that all this technology has done an awful lot to improve the quality of ordinary wine. But perhaps we're right in that it's tending to smooth out those differences between vintage, individual producers, and even country that make wine such a fascinating subject.
Clink, clink, another drink. Plenty in the cellar when it's gone. Drink, drink, the glasses clink, making tinkly music till the dawn is breaking. Clang, clang, who cares a dang? What's the difference when you're on a spree? Over the teeth, behind the gums, look out, stomach, here she comes. I have